Well, as I alluded to in the introduction, these days you can't escape the newspaper headlines. China's focus on sea power means it can already control most of our region. Another one, China is still a worry, but Russia more so. Another, we misread China or misread China at our peril. Another, is China testing Albanese? Another, PM to tackle aggressive China. Another one, Wong meets Wang as ministers attempt to mend diplomatic ties. Rightly, China occupies significant focus in Canberra. But like most things, whether it's energy policy or, as I will argue later, the United Nations, these days there's no debate on critical issues. Governments in Australia speak with a sense of absolute certainty about the rightness of their position. The taxpayer, apart from getting a vote, and remember almost 2/3 of voters didn't want either of the major parties, but apart from the vote, what say does the taxpayer get? Which brings me to Ukraine. What is happening in Ukraine is awful by any standards. But our involvement has not only put Russia offside with us, but further threatens whatever relations might be left with China. And this brings us again to the Biden administration. Looking at the Biden administration objectively, why would you answer the call from them to do anything, let alone join the adventure against Russia in Ukraine? Now, forget for a moment who's winning and who's losing, but there are many commentators who argue that Russian military forces are grinding their way towards central Ukraine and making further progress northwest and southwest. There are differing views about the success of the brave Ukrainian army, but has Western military assistance escalated the conflict? There are many reports which argue that entire Ukrainian brigades are dying, giving up or retreating. Of Ukrainian casualties, an American general estimated the true figure may be up to 200,000. And what about the sanctions against Russia, designed by the Biden administration and accepted unquestioningly by the Allies? Yet as we stand today, Russia seems in excellent economic health, with inflation falling and the currency stronger than it was before the military operation started. As Ted Dwyer wrote recently in the Australian Spectator, quote, quite why our parliament decided in a bipartisan manner to join in this disaster remains a mystery. Ukraine, he wrote, is a nation some 13,000 kilometres away. Australia and Ukraine have negligible economic, military, political or cultural ties. He writes, the tussle between Russia and Ukraine over the status of Russian-aligned regions in eastern Ukraine has nothing to do with Australia. He says Australia is not a member of NATO or of the EU. There doesn't appear, he writes, to be any national interest justifying Australian involvement in the conflict, unquote.